History Network, my personal page, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, on my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, and on Periscope, The AHN Show. So I wanted to do an update on what's going on with the coronavirus. Hope everybody is doing well. Family is safe. I talked to, got notifications through YouTube. Some people who watch me who are quarantined, who are self-quarantining. And so we have some updates dealing with the coronavirus. I want to deal with that, and also some new research that's come out in the past couple of days. I've seen articles the past couple of days dealing with new research dealing with how the coronavirus can persist in air for hours and on surfaces for days. Also, we saw the bill that passed the House of Representatives Saturday morning, 12:30 a.m. Saturday morning, and passed the U.S. Senate. I think it was Wednesday, passed the U.S. Senate. We saw Donald Trump sign that bill into law, dealing with families first. Dealing with providing aid to everyday people who are suffering from the effects of the coronavirus. So we're going to deal with that. Also, we see that as more testing takes place, we see the number of documented cases in the U.S. has surpassed 9,200 documented cases. And then also we see worldwide, and then also we see the number of deaths in the U.S. has surpassed 140 as well. If we look at the chart from the reporting from Johns Hopkins University, we see over 9,200 reported cases in the U.S. and then also over 217,000 reported cases worldwide. Okay, so let's jump into this. Everybody share this broad page and on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. And then also, if you'd like this type of information, you could donate to the African History Network. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. $, the AHN Show through Cash App. And then also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. paypal.me/the AHN Show, or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button. That helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, and finance our Sunday night show. And then African American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Okay, so if we look at some of the updates, and I mean this information is changing hour by hour. So I do a lot of research each day to stay on top of this and share this information with you. Also, we see new research on the impact that is having on millennials, and how millennials and those ages 20 through 40 are more susceptible to COVID-19 than we originally thought. So we'll deal with that as well. So Donald Trump on Wednesday, March 18th, 2020, has signed into law a bill to ensure paid leave benefits to many Americans, which is part of a broader aid package to fight the effects of this global pandemic. We know the World Health Organization declared it a global pandemic, and then Donald Trump declared it a national emergency Friday, March 13th, 2020. Okay. Now, contrary to popular belief, we know on Tuesday, March 17th, Donald Trump at the coronavirus task force press conference said he always knew it was a pandemic. That's not true. He did not refer to it as a pandemic. And as a matter of fact, in late February, I think it was February 28th, NBCnews.com has the article dealing with this. Donald Trump referred to coronavirus as the Democrats' new hoax. He referred to it as the Democrats' new hoax. Okay, and that's like February 28th, 2020. Okay, so no, he did not always think it was a pandemic. That's a lie. But once again, this is an example of how elections have consequences. This was what I was explaining to people in 2016, leading up to the election, and you had people who said we were just going to focus on economic empowerment and build businesses and invest in the stock market. And I said, no, we need to do that, and we need to deal with politics. And I told people how dangerous Trump was, okay? And those people who understand business know he was not a good businessman. They understood he did not understand government and how to run a government. All you have to do is look at how he's helped destroy the stock market. We saw today the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped more than 1,300 points. It wiped out almost all of the gains in the Dow that have happened since the Trump administration. Okay, this is what happens when you have someone who is incompetent in office. We also see that Donald Trump continues to lie on the Obama administration when it comes to the handling of swine flu, H1N1, and policies that were put in place when the Trump administration came in. Where the reporting came out, thehill.com and other news outlets, Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. So we'll talk about that as well, okay? Because Donald Trump just continues by. And let me pull up this with Trump calling the coronavirus a hoax. Yeah, that's from NBCnews.com. Okay, so the legislation also promises free coronavirus testing to anyone who needs it, including the uninsured, increase health funding around the country, and supports nutrition programs such as the food stamp system. Now, China on Thursday said that there had been no cases of domestic coronavirus infections in the country the previous day for the first time since the outbreak began. All 34 infections diagnosed on Wednesday were in people arriving in China from abroad. The National Health Commission said it was a significant milestone for the country where the virus was first reported in mid-November of 2019. Now, from most reports that I see, they really, you may have had people, you may have had reports mid-November 2019, but it really started being noticed in December 2019 when you had people going to the hospital with this virus and they had symptoms similar to the flu, but it wasn't the flu. Okay, and the special that Richard Engel did on MSNBC that deals with the coronavirus, they talked about how it was really in December 2019 that the doctors and scientists really started seeing this and realizing this is something different than the flu. So 2 members of Congress, Representatives Ben McAdams, Democrat of Utah, and Mario Diaz-Balart, Republican from Florida, said on Wednesday, March 18th, that they had tested positive for coronavirus. So these are the first 2 members of Congress that we know of who actually tested positive for coronavirus. So when we look at some updates from around the world in the U.S., we see Italy's coronavirus death toll increased by 475 on Wednesday. This was the largest daily increase recorded in any country, increased by 475. We see the state of New York has more confirmed cases than all but 10 countries in the world. The state of New York has more confirmed cases than all but 10 countries in the world. Let's see, the article from NBCnews.com, Trump calls coronavirus Democrats, quote, new hoax, end quote. Trump calls coronavirus Democrats, quote, new hoax, end quote. This is from February 28th, 2020. Okay, so read that article. So, in February, he was calling the Democrats new hoax. Then, 2 weeks after that, Trump declares it a national emergency. When Trump declared it a national emergency, this caused a shift over at the Fox News network, Trump TV, because many of those idiots over at Fox News were called into hoax as well. When he declared it a national emergency, then they changed their tune and they started talking about how serious this is and people need to take it serious. The median age of a Fox viewer is 65 years old, meaning 50% of their viewers are older than 65. They're the prime candidates to be severely impacted by this. You think they would have looked out for their viewers. I mean, you think they would have been concerned and looked out for the viewers and not promote this hoax nonsense. So the White House coronavirus plan aims to send $2,000 to many Americans. It includes so this is a plan that's being proposed. Okay, the White House coronavirus plan. And let's pull up some information dealing with this. The Washington Post has a good article dealing with this. Negotiations intensify on Capitol Hill over massive stimulus legislation as coronavirus fallout worsens. Trump administration pushes senators to support sending many Americans $2,000 each, backs $300 billion for small business relief. Multiple industries seek bailouts. So you have industries, the airlines industry, they're trying to get a bailout, about $50 billion. You have the cruise industry, etc. With the airlines, what they did was, with the tax cuts they got from Donald Trump's $1.4 trillion tax cut, right? And the overwhelming majority of the benefits went to the top 10%. They bought back a lot of stock, which increased the value of the stock. This is one of the criticisms of bailing out corporations. Okay, and so a lot of people bail out the corporations. Then you're going to have rigid restrictions on put on them, and one of the restrictions is they can't buy back stock because that benefits their shareholders. But that benefits their shareholders, and they're taking money that they got from the American taxpayer to then further enrich their shareholders. Because when a company buys back stock, that reduces the number of shares of stock that are available for the general public to buy. And based upon principles of supply and demand, when you have a smaller purchase, that increases the value of it. That's it. So that's the theory behind corporations buying back stock, to increase the value of the shares, which increases the wealth of their shareholders, their board members, the CEOs, etc. Okay, so this is a bill. This is a bailout package that's being pushed. Okay, this is not the one for the families that Trump just signed into office. This is another one. Washington Post has an article: negotiations intensify on Capitol Hill over massive stimulus legislation as coronavirus fallout worsens. So the Trump administration and congressional leaders rushed on Wednesday to assemble a massive stimulus package aimed at preventing the U.S. economy from into its worst collapse since the Great Depression, as fears about the coronavirus pandemic brought much of American life to a standstill. The administration's $1 trillion proposed rescue plan, which forms the basis for fast-moving negotiations on Capitol Hill, includes sending 2 large checks to many Americans and devoting $300 billion toward helping small businesses avoid massive layoffs. Priorities laid out in a 2-page Treasury Department document also include $50 billion to help rescue the airline industry, $50 billion to help rescue the airline industry, and $150 billion to prop up other sectors, hotels. Some people who say, well, you know, people like Sheldon Adelson, Roland Martin talked about this, Roland Martin Unfiltered. Sheldon Adelson is a hotel magnate. He owns a newspaper as well. He was a financier, a big backer of Donald Trump. $31 billion. He owns hotels. His hotels will be bailed out. This bailout package, does this apply to Donald Trump's hotels also? This bailout package, $150 billion to prop up other sectors, which include hotels. Does this include Donald Trump hotels? So a lot of people are saying, well, wait a second, billionaires like Sheldon Adelson and Donald Trump don't need a bailout. The White House is vetting these proposals with Senate GOP leaders before engaging more fully with Democrats. So the package is certain to evolve in coming days. Democrats, meanwhile, are eyeing their own priorities, largely aiming to shore up safety net programs, and the public health infrastructure, as well as send money directly to American taxpayers while shunning corporate bailouts. So we see a lot of Republicans focus more on bailing out corporations as opposed to bailing out everyday Americans. Representative Maxine Waters, Democrat of California, proposed on Wednesday having the Federal Reserve send $2,000 to every American adult and $1,000 to every American child until the crisis ends. I can go for that. The emerging government stimulus package could be unprecedented in its size and velocity, dwarfing the $800 billion stimulus law passed during the Obama administration and the $700 billion troubled asset relief program acted during the Bush administration, okay, also known as TARP, Troubled Asset Relief Program. All told, between several legislative packages advanced on Capitol Hill and other actions the government has taken, the White House is pushing an economic that is $2 trillion and counting. And the House is pushing an economic that is $1 trillion and counting to the coronavirus economic. Senior administration officials said. The official spoke on the condition of anonymity to reveal details of the planning. So we saw the Dow Jones Industrial Act Wednesday, March 18th, fell 1,338 points, or 6%, virtually wiping out all of the stock market's remaining gains during the Trump administration. During Donald Trump's presidency. Donald Trump told that under quote worst case scenario, the under 20%, twice its peak from the financial crisis, and a J.P. Morgan Chase research note predicted the economy would shrink by 14% between April and June. The World War II history. So you find out that all of this, the overwhelming majority of this, if not all of this, was avoidable if Donald Trump and John Bolton had not gotten rid of Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer, who headed up the global health security team for the National Security Council. If he had not gotten rid of Tom Bossert, who was Homeland Security Director, who was warning the Trump administration about possible global pandemics and things like this. Pandemic preparedness and global health security are issues that require government-wide responses, experts say, as well as the leadership of a high-ranking official within the White House who is assigned only this role. Go back and look at the article from May 10th, 2018. Top White House official in charge of pandemic response exits abruptly. Top White House official in charge of pandemic response exits abruptly. And I talked about this when I did my broadcast dealing with the history of the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. I did that on not the 17th, 16th. March 16th, I think it was. So check that one out. Okay, dealt with the history of the Spanish flu pandemic and the similarities between that and the coronavirus crisis. Okay, so let's continue here. Okay, so we see the state of New York has roughly 2,500 confirmed cases, more than all but 10 countries in the world. And we see as the U.S. government continues to scramble and escalate its response, Donald Trump ordered Navy hospital ships to states on the coast. He ordered ships to states on the coast. The United States and Canada agreed to close their entire border to non-essential travel. We also saw on Wednesday, March 18th, that Ford and GM announced they would temporarily cease production at their North American plants. So we saw this news here in Detroit. We saw this news here in Detroit. They're going to close it down, I think, for about 2 weeks or so, something like that, and reevaluate it after that. A growing number of business groups are petitioning the White House and Congress for economic relief, as the total number of confirmed cases in the United States is over 9,000. That's actually over 9,200. Now, Bruce Kassman, managing director and head of economic research at J.P. Morgan Chase, said the concentration of this drag at its most intense is far bigger than during the 2008 financial crisis. This mishandling of the coronavirus crisis, this mishandling of the coronavirus, which has turned into an economic disaster, is going to cost Donald Trump the presidency. Joe Biden is going to defeat Donald Trump November 3rd, 2020. Joe Biden is going to defeat Donald Trump November 3rd, 2020. You're going to have Republicans who voted for Donald Trump, who are severely hurting from this coronavirus crisis. Either they can't get the proper testing, they're hurting economically, they've been laid off from work. This is going to cost Donald Trump the presidency. People are seeing how inept he is, how incompetent he is, how he was denying that this was a global pandemic, how he was on Fox News in press conferences saying it's only 15 people, pretty soon it's going to be 0. We got 15 diagnosed cases, pretty soon it's going to be 0. All this nonsense. Realizing he has no clue what he's doing. He is a walking disaster. This is going to cost him the presidency, as it should have. And if we go back to February 5th, February 6th, 2020, in the Senate impeachment trial, if Republican senators who knew Donald Trump was guilty, and they all knew he was guilty, if they had done their job and upheld their oath to the U.S. Constitution, they would have removed his dumb ass from office. And some of this could have been avoided, but they were too cowardly to do that. They left him in office. They emboldened him, and look at what you have. This is an example of how elections have consequences. So you had all the people talk about we're going to do economic empowerment and build businesses and all this stuff, right? Well, government has shut down a lot of your businesses. Government is impacting the economy, so a lot of the people who had money to spend with your businesses are now laid off, or they've lost their jobs, or what have you. So this is why we have to understand how politics and business intersect. We need both of them. Politics creates the environment, influences the economic environment your business operates within. Your business is not immune to the economic environment. So we have to understand this, okay? When we have people in elected office, or when we have elections, we're not voting for someone to have a job. We're voting for policies that benefit us and our community and our people. We have to understand the difference. So politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Elected officials, so African Americans pay taxes. Elected officials are fiduciaries, are stewards over your taxpayer dollars. They determine how your taxpayer dollars are utilized. The programs that are funded by taxpayer dollars. So we're going to pay taxes and not have a say over who handles our money? That's not even logical. It's not about a political party, it's about the policies. It's not about a political party, it's about the policies. If you go back to December 2019, January 2020, Donald Trump's 35-day partial government shutdown negatively impacted African American owned businesses, from African American farmers to African American owned businesses to African Americans who were working for the federal government. And many of them had to go to work and go a month without a paycheck. Or because, say, 18% of federal employees are African Americans, who make up 14% of U.S. population. 11% of federal government contractors are African American businesses. So you had African American businesses who were contractors, many of them who were hurt because they went a month without getting paid. So they had to lay off employees or however they worked that out. And then when you look at contractors, there's no law stating that when there's a government shutdown, that contractors get paid for that period of time that they're off. So if you so you have businesses who didn't get paid for a month, their employees don't get paid for a month unless the business owner reached into their pocket and paid those employees for that time off work. It was a disaster. That negatively impacted African Americans. This right here with coronavirus, that's that 35-day partial government shutdown on steroids. This is understanding how politics impacts every aspect of your life, from the water you drink to the air you breathe to the food you eat, to the value of your 401k plan, to the value of your stocks. It's tied to your wealth. It impacts your business. So African American restaurants and bars and things like that, a lot of them have to shut down, or they're just restricted to carry-out service. This is huge. This right here should be an example to us to understand how important government and politics is in our life and how it impacts African American owned businesses. This is a real life case study. In business school, we do case studies on different events, different historical events, different corporations. This is the mother of all case studies right here. Coronavirus. How does a virus that you can't see with the human eye create a catastrophe that you can look around and see everywhere? This is a case study. This is the mother of all case studies. This is a case study for the ages. How does a virus that you can't see with the human eye create a catastrophe that you can see all around you, all throughout all 50 states? The overwhelming majority of this, if not all of it, could have been avoided. So the U.S. Senate on Wednesday also voted to approve a House bill that would spend some $100 billion on paid leave, unemployment insurance, and free testing to people affected by the coronavirus fallout. So this was the family's first bill, okay, and that was the bill was passed in the House of Representatives on Saturday morning, early Saturday morning, 12:30 a.m. Okay, early Saturday morning. And let me get my notes from the Sunday night show. But yeah, that was the family's first bill. Let me see here. Let me get the exact name of it. Okay, New York Post. Also, African American business owners post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Yeah, but that was the family's first act. Okay, I don't know what my notes are from Sunday's show. I have stuff all over the place. All right, let's continue here. And, I think maybe this is it here. Okay. Now this is it here. let's continue. Okay, so attention on Capitol Hill was focused on the next step as lawmakers. Well, let me back up here. So the Senate on Wednesday also voted to approve a House-passed bill that would spend some $100 billion on paid leave, unemployment insurance, and free testing. Okay, paid leave, unemployment insurance, and free testing to people affected by the coronavirus fallout. Now, that vote sent the legislation to Donald Trump's desk, who signed it into law on Wednesday night. That followed the passage of another law earlier this month of $8.3 billion, an $8.3 billion emergency spending package for the public health. Now, attention on Capitol Hill was focused on the next step as lawmakers faced the need for urgent action to pass a major stimulus bill to stabilize the economy before they too are forced to abandon work. Hanging over the Capitol was the threat of coronavirus infections that have already reached into Congress, with several congressional aides infected and a number of lawmakers announcing voluntary self-quarantine after coming into contact with infected. Now, Wednesday evening brought news of the first two lawmakers to contract the disease. Republican Representative Ben McAdams, Democrat from Utah, said they symptoms in less than 24 hours after they stood on the crowded House floor and voted for the coronavirus relief package. Man, there's going to be some other members of the House of Representatives who contracted coronavirus. There's going to be some other members of the House of Representatives coronavirus, and who contract. And a lot of people in Congress are like older, are really vulnerable to this. All right, so Senate Majority Leader Moscow Mitch McConnell announced a new process for voting Wednesday, aimed at lengthening the time for votes so senators don't congregate in the well of the Senate. He urged his members to prepare to act. He said that the U.S. Senate is going to stay in session until we finish Phase 3, the next bill, and send it over to the House of Representatives. Republicans hope shortly to have a consolidated position along with the administration, and we intend to sit down with our see what we did on the Senate floor. He said, "Stay close. Just how long it will take to get through these steps is unclear, but as everyone knows, we are moving rapidly because the situation demands it." Now, the new $1 trillion Trump plan would seek to spend $500 billion toward the cash payments to individual Americans. Okay, it would seek to spend $500 billion towards cash payments for individual Americans. And though some people would not qualify if their income is over a certain level. So the Treasury Department outline says the funds would be paid out in two equal amounts, first on April 6th and then again on May 18th. White House officials have eyed making each check $1,000, but those talks remain ongoing and the amount could grow. Now, the White House discussions with Republicans would aim to spend another $50 billion to help rescue the airline industry and $150 billion to prop up other sectors, which could include hotels, among others. Is Donald Trump's hotel going to benefit? Is his hotels going to benefit from this? Some Democrats have raised concerns about how these funds might be used and have called for putting restrictions on firms that receive emergency assistance to assure that employees are not laid off while exercising pocket large bonuses. The Treasury proposal suggests an airline industry secured lending facility that would direct loans, passenger and cargo air carriers. Treasury Department other terms of any loan, but they would on increases in executive compensation until repayment of the loans. So this is one of the criticisms. One, a lot of people, especially Democrats, other industries, if they get that money has to go to benefit the employees. That money has to go to these. They can't and they can't use the money to buy back, which then the value of the supply and demand. When you have less stock of a particular, in general, less stock of a corporation available for purchase, it increases the value, which enriches the value of the CEOs, the board members, etc., the billionaires. Okay, so they're saying no, you can't use that money for that. So Donald Trump said Wednesday that the exact sums were in flux as negotiations progress on Capitol Hill. Okay. So Republicans on Wednesday were trying to resolve internal divisions over the direct checks proposal and other parts of the administration's request. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, a skeptic of the payments, was working with Senator Mitt Romney, Republican of Utah, on a potential compromise in which the funding for the second direct cash payment would instead be used to increase unemployment benefits, Senator Mitt Romney told reporters. Okay, so you can check out the rest of this. Now, when it comes to the $300 billion for small businesses, one of the goals of the White House's decision to seek $300 billion for small businesses in the plan would be to help firms continue paying employees, as there has already been a wave of layoffs, particularly at restaurants and other companies where business was suddenly halted. This is government impacting business. This is government impacting business. It's coming from the mishandling of the coronavirus crisis by the Trump administration, then caused governors to have to take action to protect their states. And so you saw governors like Governor Whitmer of Michigan, Governor J.B. Pritzker of of Illinois, Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio, and other governors put restrictions on bars and restaurants. This also, we see, like here in Detroit, we see all of the breweries are closed. We see the Detroit, all of this closure. We see the cancellation of conferences. We see cost of at dirt cheap ovations that are canceling. That then impacts the businesses around the hotels. Okay. The restaurants, the retail outlets. That impacts the gig economy. About 5.8, almost 6 million people part of the gig economy. Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Uber Eats, things like this. They've seen a drastic drop in their income. This has a ripple effect all throughout the economy. We saw Donald Trump today signed the executive order, I think it was, to put an end to evictions and foreclosures until sometime in April as well. So this is having a huge ripple effect all throughout the economy. The goals of the White House's decision to seek $300 billion for small businesses in the plan would be to help firms continue paying employees, as there has already been a wave of layoffs, particularly at restaurants and other companies where business has suddenly halted. these credits, which the Treasury Department is calling small business interruption loans, would come with a 100% government guarantee. Eligible borrowers would have 500 or fewer employees, and the loan amounts would be targeted to finance 6 weeks of payroll, capped at $1,540 per week per employee. The loans would come from U.S. financial companies. But would have U.S. government backing. The Treasury Department would have the power to issue regulations about interest rates and loan maturities. Package point include some of the big tax cuts that Donald Trump had saw early on, because Donald Trump was pushing a payroll tax cut. Well, if you're a business and you don't have revenue coming in because the governors had to shut your business down because the Trump administration mishandled the coronavirus and did not get ahead of this curve, didn't take this seriously, then you having a payroll tax cut doesn't help if you don't have money coming in. So Donald Trump proposing a payroll tax cut once again shows he doesn't understand the nature of this issue. White House officials pivoted away from the tax cuts after Democrats and Republicans largely planned the idea, and Trump expressed concern that it would take too long for these benefits to filter through the economy. The White House also sent Congress a separate emergency funding request for $46 billion for ongoing preparedness and response efforts to the coronavirus. This would include new funding for the Department of Defense, the Department of Veteran Affairs, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Check out this reporting from Washington Post. Okay, this deals with what happened Wednesday, March 18, 2020, and the previous day. Negotiations intensify on Capitol Hill over massive stimulus legislation as coronavirus fallout worsens. Okay, Trump administration pushes senators to support sending many Americans $2,000 each, backs $300 billion for small business relief. Multiple industries seek bailouts. Okay, so if we look at, I want to look at some of the recent research that's come out on coronavirus. YahooNews.com as well as USA Today had articles dealing with this. Coronavirus can persist in air for hours, on surfaces for days. Study finds coronavirus can persist in air for hours and on surfaces for days. Study finds. So so this is on March 17th, 2020. This is from YahooNews.com, and I've seen reporting from WXYZ Channel 7 in Detroit on this as well, and then also USA Today. So the highly contagious novel coronavirus that has exploded into a global pandemic can remain viable and infectious in droplets in the air for hours and on surfaces up to days, according to a new study that should offer guidance to help people avoid contracting the respiratory illness called COVID-19. Scientists from the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, part of the U.S. National Institutes of Health, attempted to mimic the virus deposited from an infected person onto everyday surfaces in a household or hospital setting, such as through coughing or touching objects. They used a device to dispense an aerosol that duplicated the microscopic droplets created in a cough or a sneeze. The scientists then investigated how long the virus remained infectious on these surfaces, according to the study that appeared online in the New England Journal of Medicine on Tuesday, March 17th. This was a day in which this was a day in which U.S. COVID-19 cases surged past 5,200 and deaths approached 100. So on Tuesday, March 17th, reported U.S. cases in the U.S. surged past 5,200. On Wednesday, March 18th, reported cases went past 9,200 and deaths went past 140. Now, if you saw my broadcast dealing with the history of the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, we know that that pandemic hit in 3 waves. There was a wave in spring, March, April or so in 1918. Then there was a wave that hit in the fall, winter, like September, October, November. And then there was a wave that hit in early 1919 also. But 3 waves of that pandemic. So the tests show that when the virus is carried by the droplets released when someone coughs or sneezes, it remains viable or able to still infect people for at least, so now a controlled setting, okay, which setting is a little different than actually somebody sneezing, but this gives more insight into 19. The test, or SARS-CoV-2. SARS-CoV-2 is the actual virus. COVID-19 is the actual disease that the virus causes. Okay. SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome. So the tests show that when the virus is carried by the droplets released when someone coughs or sneezes, it remains viable or able to still infect people in aerosols for at least 3 hours. On plastic and stainless steel, the virus is viable. A viable virus could be detected after 3 days. On plastic and stainless steel, viable virus could be detected after 3 days. On cardboard, the virus was not viable after 24 hours. On copper, it took 4 hours for the virus to be inactivated or not active. In terms of half-life, the research team found that it takes about 66 minutes for half the virus particles to lose function if they are in an aerosol droplet. Now, that means that after another hour and 6 minutes, 3/4 of the virus particles will be essentially inactivated, but 25% will still be viable. That means that after another hour and 6 minutes, 3/4 of the virus particles will be essentially inactivated, but 25% will still be viable. So the amount of viable virus at the end of the 3rd hour, will be down to 12.5%, according to research led by the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, okay, at a Montana facility at Rocky Mountain Laboratories. On stainless steel, it takes 5 hours 38 minutes for half of the virus particles to become inactive. On plastic, the half-life is 6 hours, researchers found. On cardboard, the half-life was about 3.5 hours. But the researchers said there was a lot of variability in those results. So we advise caution interpreting the number. The shortest survival time was on copper, where half the virus became inactivated within 46 minutes. So check out this article from news.yahoo.com, news.yahoo.com. This deals with new research that was done, and the research is posted on the New England Journal of Medicine's website. This research was posted March 17th, 2020, Tuesday, March 17th, 2020. Coronavirus can persist in air for hours and on surfaces for days. Okay, so this is new research dealing with that. Now, we also see that as Donald Trump continued to lie and try to blame the Obama administration for rules put in place, and he tried to blame them for the handling of the coronavirus, his response to it, and the restrictions that he claimed was on them. And let me go to the actual fact checking so we can actually look at his actual statement. New York Times has information dealing with this false statements that he made. We know on March 13th, Friday, March 13th, when he declared coronavirus a national emergency, we know that it was our sister Yamisha Alcindor who pressed him on this, who challenged him on this, blaming the Obama administration. If we look at the fact checking from the New York Times from March 13th, 2020, Trump's false claims about his response to the coronavirus. Trump's false claims about his response to the coronavirus. The president inaccurately described travel restrictions he had announced, falsely blamed his predecessor for testing shortages, and misstated the role Google was playing in mitigating the outbreak. But Donald Trump wrongly blamed the Obama administration for coronavirus testing shortages and falsely said it didn't do testing during the swine flu epidemic of 2009. Donald Trump falsely said that the Obama administration did not do testing during the swine flu epidemic of 2009. Donald Trump said, quote, "I don't take responsibility at all because we were given a set of circumstances and we were given rules, regulations, and specifications from a different time," end quote. Now that's false. The Food and Drug Administration issued a draft guidance in 2014 in which it sought to extend its authority to regulate laboratory development tests. But it's wrong to blame the effort for the scattered and insufficient delivery of coronavirus tests, as the guidance was not particularly relevant to emergency situations and was never finalized or generally enforced. A law enacted in 2004 created the process and requirements for use of unapproved products in public health emergencies. Under the law and guidance set by the Trump administration itself, the Food and Drug Administration requires developers of laboratory developed tests to submit information and to comply with certain procedures. The agency said in early March that it would permit unapproved tests for the coronavirus for 15 days while developers are preparing their emergency authorization requests. The agency said, the Food and Drug Administration said in early March 2020 that it would permit unapproved tests for the coronavirus for 15 days while developers are preparing their emergency authorization request. Neither the 2004 law nor subsequent amendments restricted the Trump administration from doing so, nor did it hamper previous administrations in fast-tracking tests for other health crises. So Trump is lying. Okay, he's just lying. Then Trump said, if you go back to the swine flu, it was nothing like this. They didn't do testing like this, and actually they lost approximately 14,000 people, and they didn't do the testing. They started thinking about testing when it was far too late. That's blatantly wrong. That's false also. There's a lie. Diagnostic tests for the swine flu were approved and shipped out less than 2 weeks after the H1N1 virus was identified, and a day before the first death in the United States. A day before the first death in the United States. Okay? The Center for Disease Control and Prevention identified the first case of swine flu, of the virus, on April 14th, 2009. The Obama administration declared swine flu a public health emergency on April 26th, 2009. The Food and Drug Administration approved a rapid test for the virus 2 days later. That would be April 28th, 2009. At the time, the Center for Disease Control had reported 64 cases and 0 deaths. The CDC began shipping test kits to public health laboratories on May 1st. At this time, May 1st, 2009, 141 cases and 1 death had been reported. And a second test was approved in July of 2009. From May to September 2009, the agency shipped more than 1,000 test kits. Each test kit was able to test 1,000 specimens. To be sure, researchers found flaws and limitations in the test, but testing was conducted. They found flaws and limitations in the test, but testing was conducted, contrary to what Donald Trump said. A vaccine became available in early October 2009, but amid reports of shortages, President Obama declared the outbreak a national emergency later that month, later October 2009. The estimated death toll in the United States from the H1N1 epidemic was 12,469 from April 2009 to April 2010. So check out the fact checking from the New York Times. Trump's false claims about his response to the coronavirus. Trump's false claims about his response to the coronavirus. Now, if we look at this article from thehill.com, so Obama era officials are coming out, speaking out against these lies Donald Trump has been telling. We look at the reporting from March 17th, 2020. Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. Okay, so the Obama administration walked incoming Trump administration officials through a hypothetical scenario in which a pandemic worse than the 1918 Spanish flu shutdown, a pandemic worse than the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which shut down cities like Seoul, Korea, and London, England. Okay, they walked the incoming Trump administration through a hypothetical scenario in early 2017. This was reported by Politico and picked up by thehill.com. During the briefing, Trump administration officials were told such a pandemic would likely lead to circumstances such as shortages of ventilators, and that a coordinated national response would be paramount, according to documents obtained by Politico. And the article from Politico is called "Before Trump's Inauguration, a Warning: The Worst Influenza Pandemic Since 1918." Before Trump's inauguration, a warning: the worst influenza pandemic since 1918. In a tabletop exercise days before an untested new president took power, officials briefed the incoming administration on a scenario remarkably like the one he faces now. Okay, so that's from Politico. Read that full article from Politico. Let's go back to the reporting from thehill.com. All right, so during the briefing, The Trump administration officials were told such a pandemic would likely lead to circumstances such as shortages of ventilators, and that a coordinated national response would be paramount, according to documents obtained by the publication by Politico. Of the Trump administration officials present during the meeting, about 66% of them no longer serve in the White House, according to Politico, Politico, Politico.com. Now, former Deputy Labor Secretary Chris Lu, and you see him sometimes on MSNBC. Chris Lu is also on Reverend Al Sharpton's radio show, Keeping It Real, to deal with the unemployment numbers that come out the first Friday of each month. And sometimes you may see him on Reverend Al Sharpton's MSNBC show as well. But former Deputy Labor Secretary Chris Lu said, the advantage we had under Obama was that during the first 4 years, we had the same White House staff. Just having the continuity makes all the difference in the world. Because Donald Trump has had the highest turnover of his staff in modern history. We've never seen anything like this. This is what happens when you have somebody incompetent running the government. This is the same guy who said he knew all the best people. Really, where are they? Show them to me. This is the same guy who said he knew all the best people. Obviously, the best people don't want to work for you. Chris Lu went on to say 30 Trump officials attended the exercise. Cabinet and senior White House staff. They were made up of cabinet and senior White House staff. 30 Trump officials attended the exercise. But the vast majority of these officials are no longer in the government. Okay, this is what he tweeted on Monday, March 17th. It was Monday, March 16th, I think it was. Monday, March 16th. So he went on to say, when you're dealing with a crisis like COVID-19, stable and experienced leadership matters. Bottom line, when Trump says we were all surprised by COVID-19, should not have said. The Obama team warned Trump's staff about a possible pandemic, whether it was lack of preparation or staff turnover. The necessary work was not done to get in front of this. So if you go back and watch my broadcast dealing with Super Tuesday, dealing with the broadcast I did March 4th, 2020, then with the Super Tuesday results, and Joe Biden surprised everybody, won 10 states out of 14. In that broadcast, I talked about how a lot of people are looking at what's happening with the coronavirus and realizing we have to have competent leadership. And realizing what happens when you have somebody incompetent as president who has no clue what they're doing. This is not an endorsement of anybody, okay? But, Bernie Sanders or Biden would be a whole lot better than Trump. But people are looking at this, and the fact of the matter is, when the Ebola crisis broke out, President Obama put Vice President Joe Biden in charge of coordinating the U.S. efforts against the Ebola crisis. So people are seeing what happens when you have incompetent leadership, and they're realizing, okay, look, we got to have somebody who knows what they're doing. And that played a part in Joe Biden winning Super Tuesday. That also played a part in him winning states after that as well. Okay, the following Tuesday, so Super Tuesday was March 3rd. Following Tuesday, March 10th, because Michigan voted March 10th. Okay, that played a part in that, and people are realizing, this whole thing with coronavirus has been a lesson not just in medicine or biology, but also in civics and understanding how the government works and the powers of the president and the impact that the president, decisions that the president makes, how it impacts the stock markets, the financial markets, how it impacts the economy that your business operates within, how decisions this one person makes impacts 329 million people. This right here is a lesson in civics. It's a lesson in medicine. It's a lesson in biology. It's a lesson in economics. It's a lesson in business. Okay, this is deep right here, and people are responding at the ballot box. They're understanding how important their vote is. They're understanding how politics impacts every aspect of their lives, and they are responding. People are responding at the ballot box. In November 3rd, 2020, presidential election, you're gonna have a record number of people voting. You're gonna have a record number of people voting, and and people gonna come out against Donald Trump. They see what you're not gonna hear a whole bunch of people talking about we don't choose a president, electoral college choose a president. They ain't gonna talk that BS. No, they're gonna realize what happens when they don't vote. And if you actually understand how the electoral college works, and most people don't, it's not the national popular vote that matters. It's the popular vote per state. There are 50 individual elections that take place in the United States. There's state elections. When you look at the presidential election, you shouldn't look at it as a national election. You should look at it as 50 individual state elections. And you win the popular votes, you get to 270 electoral college votes by winning the popular votes associated with each state, or winning the popular votes associated with a state, and you win enough states to get to 270 electoral college votes. You win the popular votes associated with a state by winning the popular vote in the state, which means voting matters. Most people have never read the U.S. Constitution, don't understand how electoral college works, because the electoral college was created at the Constitutional Convention, the Philadelphia Convention in 1787. Don't understand how the electoral college works, so they don't understand how the popular vote does matter. It's not the overall popular vote. Hillary Clinton got 3 million more popular votes. It's not the national popular vote that matters. It's the popular vote per state that matters. This is why Republicans in 2016 engaged in rapid voter suppression in key battleground states, especially targeting African Americans to suppress the African American vote. We didn't understand what was going on. We were listening to people on social media telling us don't vote, or telling us our vote doesn't matter, or talking about the electoral college. When I ask people basic questions about the electoral college, I can tell they have no clue what they're talking about. So when we go back to this article from thehill.com, Obama officials walked Trump aides through global pandemic exercise in 2017. And for more information dealing with the electoral college, because I've done an entire lecture dealing with the history of electoral college, how it works, things like that. You can, well, first of all, history.com has information on the electoral college. Also, New York Times has a really good article. How does the electoral college work? How does the electoral college work? Okay, and this is from November 8th, 2016. November 8th, 2016 by Jonah Bromwick for New York Times. How does the electoral college work? So everybody check that out. Knowing is half the battle. When you know better, you do better. Proper documentation ends all conversation. And right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. That's why our motto is right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. So Lisa Monaco, who was President Obama's national security advisor at one point, wrote in an essay for Foreign Affairs, "We included a pandemic scenario because I believed then, and I have warned since, that emerging infectious diseases was likely to pose one of the gravest risks for the new administration." Okay, Lisa McConnell, who was at one point President Obama's national security advisor, wrote in an essay for Foreign Affairs. She said, "We included a pandemic scenario because I believed then, and I have warned since, that emerging infectious disease was likely to pose one of the gravest risks for the new administration. Now, that's interesting. That's interesting that she talks about this warning, because when we look at the reporting from Vox.com, we see that the Trump administration disbanded the Predict pandemic project. Okay, if we look at the article from Vox.com, this is from October 29th, 2019. You've heard me talk about this before. A crucial federal program tracking dangerous diseases is shutting down. A crucial federal program tracking dangerous diseases is shutting down. Predict, a pandemic preparedness program, thrived under Bush and Obama. Now it's canceled. Predict, a pandemic preparedness program, thrived under Bush and Obama. Now it's canceled. Okay, and I'm just going to share a little bit of this here with you. And let's see here. We want to pick this up. But it in the article, let's see. So they talk about the 1918 flu pandemic. Ever since the 2005 H5N1 bird flu scare, the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, U.S. Agency for International Development, has run a project to track and research these diseases called Predict, 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 at a cost of $207 million during its existence. The program has collected more than 100,000 samples and found nearly 1,000 novel viruses, including a new Ebola virus. But on Friday, in October 2019, the New York Times reported that the U.S. government is shutting down the program. According to its former director, Dennis Carroll, the program enjoyed enthusiastic support under Bush and Obama, George W. Bush, the son. But things got complicated in the last few years until the program essentially collapsed. Some aspects of the program, it is unclear which aspects, will be continued under different auspices in other departments of the government. But the core program, working with local researchers around the world to collect samples and better understand viruses in animals, is over. A core program working with local researchers around the world to collect samples and better understand viruses in animals is over. That's a shame and is indicative of a bigger problem. While pandemics make the news when they happen, efforts to understand, predict, and prevent them from happening are underfunded. While pandemics make the news when they happen, efforts to understand pandemics, predict them, and prevent them from happening are underfunded. The U.S. government has several agencies that do work on pandemic preparedness, but experts say that much more leadership in the area is needed. As researchers warn that a flu-like the 1918 influenza outbreak could kill as many as 50 million to 80 million people, and as new technologies after the landscape of biology research, making it possible to study diseases in new ways, but also making dangerous research easier than ever, it's important for the U.S. government to treat pandemic risks as a serious priority, to be addressed through many different organized international programs. the cancellation of predict, despite its reported shortcomings, is a step in the exact opposite direction. This article is from October 2019. COVID-19 was basically discovered in China, Wuhan, China, among doctors and scientists in December 2019. So you have the CDC being underfunded. You have predict this shutdown. You have Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer, who was fired in May 2018. You had Homeland Security Director Tom Bossert, who was fired. And we look at the reporting from the Washington Post from May 10th, 2018, 2 years ago. This is predicting what's coming. Top White House official in charge of pandemic response exits abruptly. And this is Michelle Sendor was asking Donald Trump about. He wanted to sidestep the question and say he didn't know anything about the pandemic team being disbanded, all that stuff. No. John Bolton fired Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer. The top White House official responsible for leading the U.S. response in the event of a deadly pandemic has left the administration. And the global health security team he oversaw has been disbanded under a reorganization by National Security Council Advisor John Bolton. As I asked before, who told John Bolton to do that? Then John Bolton fired Tom Bossert as well, the Homeland Security Director. Okay, and then you have to read the article from foreignpolicy.com as well. Because the article from foreignpolicy.com is from January 31st, which helps tie all this together. And the article from foreignpolicy.com is called Trump Has Sabotaged America's Coronavirus Response. And it talks about the firing of Rear Admiral Timothy Zimmer. And then it talks about Tom Bossert being fired or pressure to resign. National Security Council Advisor John Bolton pressured Tom Bossert to resign along with his team. Neither the National Security Council nor the Department of Homeland Security's epidemic teams have been replaced. The global health section of the Center for Disease Control was so drastically cut in 2018 that much of its staff was laid off, and the number of countries it was working in was reduced from 49 to 10. Meanwhile, throughout 2018, the U.S. Agency for International Development and its director, Mark Green, came repeatedly under fire from both the White House and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. And though Congress has so far managed to block Trump administration plans to cut the U.S. Public Health Service Commission Corps by 40%, the disease-fighting cadres have steadily eroded as retiring officers go unreplaced. So all this is tied together. Okay, all right. So let's look at, I want to look at the reporting dealing with millennials. So the rawstory.com had this article. Also, they talked about it at the White House press conference on coronavirus. Let me pull this up. Is this the right one? Yeah. Coronavirus coordinator delivers a chilling warning. Cases in Italy and France. Cases in Italy and France suggest millennials can also get very seriously ill. This is from March 18, 2020. Coronavirus coordinator delivers a chilling warning. cases in Italy and France. Cases in Italy and France suggest millennials can also get very seriously ill. So Donald Trump's coronavirus coordinator warned that young people are not immune from serious illness related to the outbreak. Dr. Deborah Birx, B-I-R-X, issued a warning Wednesday that older adults were not the only ones at risk from COVID-19, and she urged younger adults to maintain social distance to halt the virus from spreading. She said there are reports out of France and Italy of some young people getting seriously ill in the ICUs. People heeded the early data out of China and coming out of South Korea about the elderly or those with pre-existing conditions were at particular risk. People heeded the early data out of China and coming out of South Korea about the elderly or those with pre-existing conditions were at particular risk. She went on to say, it may have been that the millennial generation, which is our largest generation, our future generation, that will carry us through for the next multiple decades, there may be disproportional numbers of infections among that group. So even if it's a rare occurrence, it may be seen more frequently in that group and be evident now. So we are looking at that information very clearly. We have not seen any significant mortality in the children. We have not seen any significant mortality in the children, but we are concerned about the early reports coming out of Italy and France. Okay, so check out that article as well from rawstory.com. Coronavirus coordinator delivers a chilling warning. Cases in Italy and France suggest millennials can also get very seriously ill. We saw that from the press from March 18th and from the press conference. Trump invokes emergency authority. Big three automakers are closing. PBS.org is reporting on this from March 18th. It's the Associated Press and PBS.org picked it up. Donald Trump on Wednesday moved to invoke a federal law that allows the government to marshal the private sector to deal with the coronavirus epidemic, as the economic damage mounted with word that Detroit's big three automakers agreed to shut down all their factories to protect workers. So this was big news in Detroit. On a day of head-spinning developments, stocks tumbled again on Wall Street. More borders slammed shut across Europe and North America, with the U.S. and Canada agreeing to close their shared boundary to all but essential travel. And the Trump administration pressed Congress to swiftly pass a potentially $1 trillion rescue package to prop up the economy and speed relief checks to Americans in a matter of weeks. Calling himself a wartime president, Donald Trump said he would sign the Defense Production Act, quote unquote, in case we need it, as the government bolsters resources for an expected surge in cases of the virus. Okay, as the government bolsters resources for an expected surge in cases of the virus. With a growing number of Americans thrown out of work by the near shutdown of much of the U.S. economy, he also said he also said the Housing and Urban Development Department, HUD, will suspend foreclosures and evictions from public housing through April. Okay, he said HUD would suspend foreclosures and evictions from public housing through April. Two people briefed on the matter said Wednesday that Ford, General Motors, and Fiat Chrysler agreed to close all their factories. The two spoke on condition of anonymity because the closings had not been announced. The move would idle about 150,000 workers who are likely to receive supplemental pay in addition to unemployment benefits. All right, now also we see that various states are reporting a huge increase of the number of people who are applying for unemployment benefits as well. Politico had an article dealing with this, and let me see here. I had that article up. But that is something that we're seeing being reported by different states, a huge increase in the number of people applying for unemployment. Let's see if we can find that one quickly here. So just a second here, I thought I had that. Thought I had that already pulled up. All right, how's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, and then also through PayPal, also through Cash App, $the AHN show through Cash App, $the AHN show through Cash App. So if you want to donate $5, $10, $15, $25, $50, $100, whatever it is that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, finance our Sunday night show. And then you can also register for the online courses that I teach. We have them in the bundle pack. We have the online courses. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So this is it's about a 16-hour online course. It's all on demand. It's all pre-recorded. It's all on demand. I did it in late 2019. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. You can use it for your whole family, use it for your children, because I don't do a lot of cursing. It's not vulgar. It's very well documented. They give you numerous sources, articles, book references, etc. And I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation showing you articles, things like this. It's regularly $130. It's on sale $80, and you live stream it, so you don't have to worry about downloading it. Don't have to worry about DVDs. But we'll post a link here, and it's also on the homepage of our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. So as soon as you register, you can start watching. You can watch them around the world. Okay. Also, we have a lot of my presentations on digital download at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And we have the Black Migration 1619 to 2019 bundle pack. We have it on DVD and digital download as well. Okay. Well, if we look at this article here from Politico, for March 17, 2020. Coronavirus layoffs surge across America, overwhelming unemployment offices. Coronavirus layoffs surge across America, overwhelming unemployment offices. Job loss projections range up to 4.6 million. So employers are slashing jobs at a furious pace across the nation due to mass shutdowns over the coronavirus, slamming state unemployment offices with a crush of filers facing sudden crisis, having a huge ripple of incompetence. The incompetence of one president who had no clue what he was doing, was a con man, ignored all these warnings, operates based upon conspiracy theories, okay, has the Fox News network, which is Trump TV, defending him. All this, the overwhelming majority of this, if not all of it, could have been avoided. And this is having a massive impact all throughout the economy. Businesses having to shut down. Businesses impacted by the economy, which is impacted by government. impacted by elected officials and appointed officials. Long before official government data is expected to reveal the depths of the economic shock inflicted by the coronavirus, reports from state officials and businesses around the country indicate the gathering of a massive wave of unemployment on a scale unseen since the Great Recession. In New Jersey, 15,000 people applied for unemployment benefits on Monday, a 12-fold increase over normal levels. In Connecticut, nearly 8,000 applications arrived over the weekend, an 8-fold increase over the norm. In Rhode Island officials reported on Tuesday a 5-day rise in claims due to the coronavirus from March 10th to March 11th to 6,282 on March 16th. Okay, a 5-day rise in claims due to the coronavirus from from 10 on March 11th, 10 unemployment claims on March 11th, to 6,282 unemployment claims on March 16th. More than 45,000 Ohio workers have applied for unemployment over the past week. Some of them voted for Donald Trump. In Ohio, some of those people voted for Donald Trump, who have to apply for unemployment insurance now. Have to apply for unemployment because Donald Trump won Ohio. We won Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and if I remember correctly, Trump won Ohio also. If I remember correctly, Donald Trump won Ohio as well. Yeah, Donald Trump won Ohio also. ABC News, yeah, so they have it. Yeah, Donald Trump won Ohio also. Okay, so some of those people that voted for Donald Trump 2016, some of them have to apply for unemployment. More than 45,000 Ohio workers have applied for unemployment over the past week. The Ohio Department of Job and Family Services told Senator Rob Portman a nearly 7-fold increase over the previous week. The dramatic rise in claims could spur further action by Congress beyond the legislation now under discussion. The Families First Act that passed Congress, that's been signed into law. But then you're going to have this $1 trillion bill that's being discussed now by the Trump administration and Republicans in the Senate, okay, that I've already talked about. According to an NPR Marist poll conducted Thursday and Friday, 18% of households already report someone being laid off or having hours reduced because of the coronavirus outbreak, with women hit harder, 21%, than men, 16%, and people who earn less than $5,000 hit harder than those earning $50,000 or more. The layoffs swept businesses large and small. On Tuesday, that'd be Tuesday, March 17th. On Tuesday, Marriott Hotels said it expects to lay off tens of thousands of workers worldwide. Marriott expects to lay off tens of thousands of workers worldwide. MGM Resorts International on Monday, May 16th, closed 150 restaurants and bars, with more closings to come. So there's a lot of African American owned businesses that depend on a lot of those employees, especially black employees, to support their businesses. So now you see, elections have consequences. So now the incompetence of one man is impacting 329 million people, impacting people's businesses. Layoffs coming. Layoffs from. So if white-owned corporations were billions of dollars of land, what businesses? MGM Resorts International on Monday closed 150 restaurants and bars, with more closings coming. Caesars Entertainment Corporation, Caesars Entertainment Corporation, said it also had begun layoffs. In Washington, D.C., Compass Coffee, a local Starbucks competitor, laid off more of its 189 employees. And the Dubliner, a popular Irish bar on Capitol Hill, laid off all of them, leaving the place empty on St. Patrick's Day. During the past 48 hours, unemployment insurance offices around the country were flooded with phone calls, and state unemployment websites crashed in Kentucky, Oregon, and New York. The states of Kentucky, Oregon, and New York. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill late Tuesday were racing toward a deal with the White House on an economic stimulus package to aid industries disrupted by the global pandemic, and ironing out the details on a separate coronavirus aid package. But many state unemployment insurance programs are ill prepared for the downturn. 22 states and jurisdictions, including California, New York, Illinois, and Texas, have dangerously low reserves, and 10 have reduced the number of weeks they offer unemployment benefits since the 2007-2009 Great Recession. All this government impacts people's ability to be able to patronize your black-owned business. So this is why the people in 2016 who were talking about we're not going to vote, we're going to deal with economic empowerment, I said we need to do both. It's not one or the other, it's both. This is what people, so a lot of those people understanding what I was talking about. The duration of eligibility for unemployment insurance is in any given state, the duration of eligibility for unemployment insurance in any given state won't be affected by the legislation moving through Congress. With the Trump administration and other nations considering travel restrictions and more Americans pulling back on non-essential trips, the travel and hospitality industries have been among the first to see job cuts. So read the rest of this article. So this deals with how this is totally impacting the entire country. This is from Politico.com. This is from March 17th, 2020. St. Patrick's Day. Coronavirus layoffs surge across America, overwhelming unemployment offices. So we'll post the link here for that one also. Check that one out as well. Okay, how's everybody doing? Everybody share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in as well. We're not going to hear this type of information in a lot of other places. Follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. My YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep on YouTube. And on Periscope, The AHN Show on Periscope. Follow us also on Instagram, The AHN Show on Instagram. NBCnews.com has reporting dealing with the topic I was talking about a few minutes ago, dealing with how millennials are susceptible also to coronavirus, more so than we originally thought. Not just older people, younger adults are also getting the coronavirus. Not just older people, younger adults are also getting the coronavirus. Let's see here. So the spread of the coronavirus through a Seattle nursing home seemed to underscore a key point about the disease. Older and sicker individuals are more at risk. And while it is true that nursing home residents are particularly vulnerable to serious complications from the illness, younger and middle-aged adults, those in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, are far from immune from catching the virus. In California, 246 cases have been diagnosed in adults under the age of 64. 246 cases in the state of California have been diagnosed in people under age 64, while just 135 have been in people over 65. Okay? 246 cases have been diagnosed in adults under the age of 64 in California, and only 135 cases have been diagnosed in people over the age of 65 in California. In Colorado, more than half of the cases have been diagnosed in people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. In the state of Georgia, cases have been among adults under the age of 60. Other countries, too, have noted cases, including severe ones in younger adults. While 38% of patients in Italy have been over the age of 70, 37% have been in their 50s and 60s, according to a study published Tuesday in the Journal of the American Medical Association. About a quarter are adults younger than age 50. Okay? So, while 38% of patients in Italy have been over age 70, 37% of patients in Italy have been in their 50s and 60s, and about 25% of adults who've been diagnosed with COVID-19 in Italy have been younger than 50. Simply looking at the age ranges of the infected, however, does not provide any insights into the severity of the illness. Dr. Peter Hotez, H-O-T-E-Z, is co-director of the Center for Vaccine Development at Texas Children's Hospital and dean of the National School of Tropical Medicine at the Baylor College of Medicine in Houston, Texas. He told NBC News, quote, "In Italy, we're seeing a lot of younger adults get very sick." Now, he went on to say that to analyze how the virus will affect the majority of Americans, no matter their age, it's possible people in their 20s and 30s may develop severe illness. In France, health officials said more than half of the country's 300 patients in intensive care units are under 60 years old. At Holy Neck, New Jersey, hospitalized coronavirus patients are younger than 60. Dr. Adam Jarrett, who is the center's chief medical officer, told NBC News on Monday, March 16th, "We're seeing younger patients. One, a 29-year-old, some in their 40s, 50s. He went on to say he was surprised patients' ages skewed younger than he had expected. Now, all but one had underlying health conditions, such as heart or lung disease, diabetes, and obesity. So Dr. Adam Jarrett went on to say, "I am concerned about people who are obese. I wonder about lung capacity." Now, COVID-19, the illness that results from the infection from the coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19 is a respiratory disease that can lead to pneumonia. Adam Jarrett said that while many younger people are recovering, others have not been as lucky. He said, quote, "We are seeing organs starting to fail, such as kidneys." He said 8 of the patients at Holy Name Medical Center are on ventilators and so far are not showing signs of improvement. Still, it appears the majority of younger and middle-aged adults with the coronavirus experience mild symptoms, said Dr. Nasia Safdar, ASAFDAR, of Infection Control and Prevention at University of Wisconsin Health in Madison. Now, doctors say fevers associated with the coronavirus have been minor nothing that sets off alarms for most otherwise healthy people. Dr. Nassar said, fevers can be really low grade, no higher than 100 degrees typically. Many times people would not even pay any attention to it. Now, efforts to minimize risk to others are vital, experts say. Dr. Nikita Desai, D-E-S-A-I, at Cleveland Clinic, said, remember that transmission is not just person to person, it's also place to place. Everywhere you go, you might leave virus, and then someone else may come up and pick it up. Or everywhere you go, you might leave the virus, and someone may come along and pick it up. Dr. Adam Jarrett said people should not take this lightly. Social distancing is critical. We can get ahead of it if people make the self-sacrifice. So check out this article.com, which is into understanding how this is impacting millennials, younger people, much more than we are. This is by Erica Edwards, NBCnews.com, March 17th, 2020. Older people, younger adults also are getting the coronavirus. All right, now I want to go back quickly here to the updates from Washington Post. So Twitter is cracking down on misinformation dealing with coronavirus. Twitter is cracking down on coronavirus content that contradicts health authorities as several tech giants try to combat misinformation about the pandemic. We saw on Tuesday there was a glitch in the algorithm on Facebook, and a lot of articles that were posted, happened to a lot of our articles, coming from reputable news sources dealing with coronavirus, were marked incorrectly as spam. Okay, but Twitter's cracking down on coronavirus content that contradicts health authorities as several tech giants try to combat misinformation about the social media platform. Will work with trusted partners such as government authorities to review information. It said in a Wednesday blog post, which said back in January that it would remove dangerous claims about the virus. Also on Wednesday, announced that coronavirus news and resources portal for its billions of users. Examples of tweets that would be deleted outlined in the blog post include denials such as the declaration that social distancing is not effective, promotion of actively harmful coronavirus treatments and remedies that are ineffective, unverified claims that spawn mass panic, such as false statements that food shipments will end for 2 months. It said it is also creating a global content severity triage system, prioritizing the violations it addresses first by the harm they present. The company says it's trying to reduce users' burden to report problematic content. All right, so we talked in the beginning. China retake infections for the first time since coronavirus outbreak, and let me make sure I cover these updates. Italy's coronavirus death toll increased by 5 on Wednesday, March 18th, the largest daily increase recorded in any country. The state of New York has confirmed cases. New York has more confirmed cases than all but 10 countries. Forces National Guard unit has transported 500,000 pharyngeal swabs for coronavirus tests from Italy to Pentagon. Confirmed cases of the novel coronavirus had topped 200,000 worldwide. It's actually over 217,000 worldwide. We look at the tracking from Johns Hopkins University. It's at over 217,000 worldwide, and in the U.S. is over 9,200 reported 40 deaths in the U.S. A few weeks ago, Donald Trump said this case is pretty soon to be at 0. Let's see here. Let me just give you a few more updates. This is just a sample of the information I read dealing with coronavirus on a daily basis here. Check out the live updates from NBCNews.com, New York Times, and also Washington Post to stay on top of this. Okay, here. So African American business owners post ready to broadcast. Email us at customer service at African. We'll let you with us. We have a few more advertising spots left for current promotion boundary. Get their financial house in order in 2020, and certified financial planner Martisha Patterson can help you with that. She is a certified financial planner with over 20 years in the wealth management industry. A certified financial planner is a resource who can help analyze your financial situations you can use to maximize success. You can contact her for a free consultation. She will help you apply proven tools, techniques, and strategies so you can meet your financial goals. You may be trying to set up a budget. You may be trying to create generational wealth, etc. Navigate throughout this crazy time with the coronavirus. Give her a call. Area code 646-552-4384. 646-552-4384. Or visit our website, Patterson Plans, the number 17.com, Patterson Plans, the number 17.com. So a lot of people still want to stay in shape. You may not be going to the gym, but you still want to stay in shape. Okay? In this time is a very stressful time. And she ran herself fit.com can help you with that. Now, she ran herself fit.com is a website that sells apparel, but it also helps you get in shape. The founder's name lost over 200 pounds. She lost over 200 pounds changing her diet and by running. Fit's mission is to inspire and motivate women to healthy life. She ran herself promotes women lifestyle by making small steps in our daily and changing any of the prevalent immunity. Okay, herselffit.com, and they'll get their tips and you see picture also. Now, credit in order. Our credit services.net Middleton can help looking at car services is your communication and the equipment solutions which build your financial. The afford a new $20 for the first step by 0709 about this from the that's r.com. Okay, let's see here. Be sure to sign up for our email newsletter. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828. Text the word Kemet, K-E-M-E-T, to 22828 to sign up for our email newsletter. All right, and then you can look for updates also. You can get tips and updates on how to fight against coronavirus at the CDC's website, cdc.gov. Okay, CDC's website, cdc.gov. And you've heard me talk about this in some of my broadcasts. We'll deal with that some more in some future broadcasts as well. All right, look, we're going to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. You can donate to the African History Network also if you want to donate $5, $10, $15, $25. $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, or through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. That really helps us out, keeps doing the research. You can order my DVD lectures. We have them on DVD and digital download as well at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Remember, right now is corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. Right now is corrects wrong behavior. It's not over until we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.